They took his little girl in the middle of a storm. Deep in the Oregon woods, one father, a former Navy soldier, will face evil itself to bring her home. With nothing but his instincts and his loyal German shepherd, Rex, together, they'll track through the darkness, face armed traffickers, and fight for every child trapped in those woods. But what happens when the hero gets wounded, and the dog has to make an impossible choice? This isn't just a story about courage, it's about faith, loyalty, and the miracles God still sends to this world. Stay with us till the end. It will move your heart, and maybe even strengthen your faith. If this story touches you, please subscribe, comment, Amen, and share it to remind others that love and faith can still overcome darkness. Thank you for watching. May God bless you and everyone you love. The sun had begun to sink behind the tall pines of northern Oregon, painting the sky in streaks of amber and violet. The air carried the sharp scent of wet earth. A storm had passed that morning, leaving puddles glistening like mirrors along the gravel road that led to Jack Turner's cabin. The place was small but sturdy, wooden walls darkened by years of rain, a rusted wind chime clinking lazily on the porch, and smoke curling from the chimney. Life here was quiet, remote, and deliberate. It was exactly what Jack had wanted when he left the Navy SEALs 5 years ago. He had seen enough chaos for a lifetime. Jack Turner, now 42, was a man whose face told stories he rarely shared. Deep lines creased the corners of his gray-blue eyes, and a faint scar cut diagonally across his left eyebrow, a memory from a mission gone wrong in Kandahar. His hair, once jet black, had begun to show streaks of gray at the temples. He kept a trimmed beard that gave him a rugged look, matching the solid, muscular build of a man who still ran 3 miles every morning, despite living miles from the nearest gym. People in the nearby town of Silver Creek described him as the quiet type, someone who spoke little but carried an air of calm authority that made others instinctively listen. To his 7-year-old daughter Emily, though, he was simply Dad, the man who built her a treehouse and made blueberry pancakes every Sunday morning. Emily was a bright spark in Jack's quiet life. She had long, honey-blonde hair that caught the sunlight when she ran, a scattering of freckles across her nose, and eyes the color of spring leaves. She was small for her age, but endlessly energetic, always asking questions, always chasing butterflies, or following the family's loyal German shepherd, Rex. That afternoon, Emily was playing in the front yard, drawing with colored chalk on the old wooden fence. Her laughter mingled with the rustle of the wind, filling the air with a warmth Jack hadn't felt in years. Rex, the third member of their small family, lay nearby, stretched out under the porch steps. The 5-year-old German shepherd was broad-shouldered, his fur a blend of sable and black, with a faint silver sheen under sunlight. His ears were always alert, his eyes a deep amber that missed nothing. Rex had been trained as a military working dog, disciplined, loyal, and sharp as a blade. Jack had adopted him after their unit was disbanded. The two shared a bond that went beyond words, forged through silent understanding and trust, born in battlefields and shadows. The wind shifted, bringing a faint chill from the forest. Jack looked up from the wooden bench where he was oiling his rifle. The weapon wasn't for war anymore, just habit. In his world, routine was stability. He smiled faintly, watching Emily draw. "Don't wander off too far, kiddo," he called. "I won't, Daddy," she replied, her small voice full of life. Inside the cabin, the clock ticked toward dusk. Jack rose to pour himself a glass of water. It couldn't have been more than a minute. When he stepped back outside, the world had changed. The chalk lay broken on the dirt. The small red ball Emily had been tossing earlier rolled gently across the ground, nudged by the wind. His heart stopped. "Emily?" His voice was steady at first, then louder. "Emily!" Rex lifted his head immediately, sensing the shift in his master's tone. His ears perked, tail stiff. Jack's gaze swept the yard, the old oak tree, the fence, the gravel road beyond. Then he saw it. Tire tracks, fresh and deep, cutting through the mud near the gate. His pulse thundered. He sprinted forward, eyes scanning every detail the way only a soldier could. And there, half buried near the tracks, was Emily's small pink shoe. Jack's breath caught. For a heartbeat, the forest fell silent. Then something primal awakened inside him. Training, instinct, fear, rage, all braided into one. He dropped to his knees beside the shoe, his calloused fingers trembling as he picked it up. The faintest trace of gasoline and motor oil lingered in the air, mixed with something metallic. Blood? No, rust. He turned to Rex. "Find her," he said softly, his voice breaking just enough for Rex to understand the desperation behind the command. The German shepherd stood, muscles taut, nose low to the ground. He sniffed the shoe, then the air, then began to move. Slow at first, then faster toward the line of trees. Jack grabbed his jacket, flashlight, and pistol from the porch. The light was fading fast. Dusk had settled like a curtain. Rain began to fall again, soft at first, then heavier, each drop tapping against the leaves like a ticking clock counting down. They plunged into the forest. The air grew dense with mist, the smell of pine and damp soil thick in Jack's lungs. Rex led the way, weaving through ferns and fallen logs. Jack followed close, every sense heightened, scanning for movement. He had tracked men through jungles and deserts, but nothing compared to the dread of chasing a shadow that had taken your child. Half a mile in, Rex stopped, barking sharply. Jack rushed forward. A piece of blue ribbon, a part of Emily's hair tie, hung from a thorn bush. He pocketed it and pressed on. His flashlight caught the glint of something ahead. A candy wrapper, torn open, lying in the mud. Emily's favorite brand. She had left a trail. Smart girl, he thought, just like I taught her. Thunder rumbled overhead, rolling through the valley. Jack's boots sank into the wet ground as he followed the faint glow of Rex's collar light. The forest seemed endless, swallowing sound and time. His mind flickered between discipline and panic, between the soldier who could assess and the father who could only feel. Hours blurred into minutes. Then Rex halted again, nose pointing downhill. Jack crouched beside him and saw it. Faint light flickering between the trees, headlights, maybe a campfire. He whispered, "Good boy," patting Rex's flank. The dog's tail moved once, silently. Jack raised his binoculars. Through the rain and branches, he glimpsed a dark shape. A truck, maybe the same one that took Emily, parked beside a makeshift shack deep in the forest. Figures moved around it. He lowered the binoculars, jaw tight. The rain ran down his face, mixing with sweat and dirt. The ache in his chest turned into something sharp and steady. Focus. He reached into his pocket and gripped the tiny shoe once more, then whispered into the storm, "Hold on, baby girl. I'm coming." Rex growled low, ready. Jack motioned for silence, eyes narrowing toward the distant lights. In the fading glow of dusk, beneath the rain and the whispering trees, a father and his dog became shadows themselves, hunters in pursuit of monsters. The forest would not sleep tonight. The forest stretched endlessly beneath a silver moon, its canopy whispering like an ocean of ghosts. Jack Turner moved silently, one hand gripping his flashlight, the other brushing the cold barrel of his pistol. Rex trotted ahead, nose to the ground, his breath visible in the damp night air. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, leaving a heavy mist that clung to the branches. Jack's boots sank into the soft mud, every step deliberate, calculated. He was back in familiar territory, the kind of environment that tested patience and instinct more than brute strength. The woods were alive with faint sounds, the call of an owl, the crack of twigs under small animals, the whisper of wind through ferns. But underneath it all, Jack heard something else. The distant echo of an engine, maybe a generator. It meant people. He crouched beside a fallen log and scanned the ground. The tire tracks from earlier were joined by a second set, smaller, maybe from an ATV. His fingers brushed over the mud, feeling the texture. Still soft, recent. He looked to Rex. "They came through here not long ago," he whispered. Rex responded with a low whine, tail flicking once. The German shepherd's fur was slick with rain, his dark coat glistening under the moonlight. Despite the exhaustion from hours of tracking, Rex's movements remained sharp, disciplined, every muscle alert. They pressed forward. The deeper they went, the thicker the forest became. Massive cedars towered above them, their roots twisting like veins through the earth. Jack paused when a strange smell hit him. Cigarette smoke, faint but distinct. He crouched again, scanning for movement. There, half hidden beneath a rotting stump, he found a small, worn teddy bear with one button eye missing. It wasn't Emily's, but it was something, a sign of another child. His chest tightened. "They've been taking more than her," he muttered. A rustle came from behind a fallen tree just ahead. Jack froze, gun raised. Rex growled low in his throat, eyes narrowing toward the sound. Then, from the shadows, a small figure stumbled out. A girl, no more than 10, covered in mud and trembling. Her brown hair hung in tangled strands, her face pale, streaked with rain and tears. She wore a faded pink jacket torn at the sleeve and mismatched shoes. Jack lowered his weapon slowly, his tone softening. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl flinched but didn't run. Her lips quivered before she spoke. "Are you with them?" she whispered, voice hoarse. Jack shook his head. "No. My name's Jack. I'm looking for my daughter. She's 7. They took her too." The girl's eyes widened as she looked at Rex, who stood motionless beside Jack, head slightly tilted. "You have a dog," she murmured. "They hate dogs." Jack took a careful step closer. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lila," she said finally. "Lila Grant." Her voice cracked on the last word, and Jack noticed the bruises on her wrists, faint marks of rope. She looked malnourished, skin pale under the moonlight. "How long have you been out here, Lila?" he asked. She shrugged, shivering. "Since last night. I ran when they were fighting. They caught 2 kids who tried to escape before me. They're still there." Her eyes darted around nervously. "You can't go near the cave when the men are awake. They have guns." Jack handed her his jacket and crouched to meet her eyes. "You did good getting this far. Can you show me where it is?" Lila hesitated, glancing toward the dark stretch of forest to the north. "It's past the creek," she said. "There's a big rock that looks like a face. Behind it is the cave. That's where they keep everyone. They say they're waiting for trucks to come." Rex gave a low bark, as if confirming they were close. Jack nodded slowly, trying to keep his expression calm though his pulse raced. "We'll get them out," he said. "All of them." Lila's small face twisted in fear. "You can't. There are 6 men, maybe more. The one in charge, he's mean. He hurt the others. His name's Travis." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Travis who?" She shook her head. "They just call him Boss. He has a scar on his neck, and he smokes all the time." Jack memorized every detail. In his mind, the mission had shifted. It was no longer a rescue. It was a reckoning. He gave Lila a protein bar from his pack, watching her devour it in seconds. "We'll rest for 5 minutes," he said quietly. "Then Rex will lead you to the main road. You'll find help." But Lila grabbed his sleeve, shaking her head fiercely. "No, I can help. I know where the guards sleep. Please, I don't want to be alone again." Jack studied her face. The fear, the defiance, the glimmer of courage. It reminded him of Emily. He sighed. "All right. Stay close. No noise. Do exactly what I say." Lila nodded, clutching the edge of his jacket as they moved forward. Rex took point again, ears twitching with every sound. The forest grew colder as they neared the creek. The moon's reflection shimmered across the water like broken glass. Jack crouched and pointed toward faint footprints in the mud, small ones, likely children. He followed them up the slope until he saw it, a massive rock formation shaped like a human face, just as Lila had said. Behind it, the faint orange glow of firelight flickered through cracks in the stone. Voices echoed faintly, rough, male, careless laughter. Jack's jaw tightened. He motioned for silence. The soldier in him was fully awake now, breathing steady, heartbeat slow, eyes calculating distances and movement. He whispered to Rex, "Stay low." The German shepherd crept beside him, fur bristling. From where they crouched, Jack could see crude wooden cages, at least 3 of them, and inside, small figures huddled together. He didn't see Emily, yet, but he knew this was the place. As he stared into that dim, terrifying glow, Jack felt the weight of the night pressing down on him. His daughter was somewhere in there, and for the first time since leaving the Navy, he felt that old familiar certainty. This mission, he would not fail. Rain hammered the forest floor as lightning split the sky into jagged streaks of white. The storm cloaked every sound, which was exactly what Jack Turner needed. From the ridge above the northern creek, he peered through his night vision binoculars, his pulse steady, his breath controlled. Below, dim orange light spilled from the mouth of a cave, flickering over 6 figures moving among wooden cages and stacked crates. The men were armed, rifles slung over shoulders, pistols tucked into their belts. One of them, tall and broad, wore a black raincoat and a red cap. He was barking orders, his voice rough and cold even against the thunder. That had to be Travis, the man Lila had described. Travis was in his late 30s, with a face carved from stone and a deep scar running across his neck like a jagged rope burn. His dark hair was matted with rain, his beard uneven and thick, making him look more like a beast than a man. A cigarette glowed between his lips, even in the downpour. Jack zoomed in. He caught the faint glint of military-grade boots, the kind issued to private security contractors. So Lila had been right. Travis wasn't just some thug. He was ex-military, like Jack. That made him dangerous. Jack crouched lower, his soaked jacket clinging to his shoulders. Rex was beside him, perfectly still, his golden brown eyes locked on the cave. The dog's fur dripped with rainwater, but his stance was steady, alert, his body coiled like a spring. Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out a small camera, a waterproof tactical model, and began recording. Each frame mattered. Each face could be proof. He whispered, "Easy, boy," and Rex responded with a quiet whine, his breath visible in the cold air. Suddenly, headlights cut through the trees. A black pickup truck rumbled up to the cave entrance, its tires hissing through the mud. Jack adjusted his binoculars. Two new men stepped out. One was short and stocky, wearing a green jacket stained with oil. The other, tall and lean, had a shaved head and nervous energy. Jack recognized the look instantly. Mercenaries, but not professionals. The stocky one pulled open the truck bed, revealing large plastic containers. Travis walked over, flicked his cigarette aside, and shouted something Jack couldn't hear. The tall man handed him an envelope. Money, probably. Payment for the next transport. Jack's stomach tightened. The crates. They weren't just hiding the children here. They were preparing to move them. He checked his watch, 2:17 a.m. The window for rescue was closing. From his vantage point, Jack could make out 3 guards patrolling near the tree line. One of them, a younger man with an unshaven jaw and a rain-soaked hoodie, stopped to light a cigarette. Jack studied his face. Barely older than 20. He wondered if this kid even understood what he was part of. A flash of lightning revealed the boys shaking hands. Not hardened yet, Jack thought. That could be an opening. Lila crouched beside Jack, her face pale beneath the glow of his small flashlight. "That's him," she whispered, pointing at the cave. "That's where they keep the kids." Jack nodded, scanning again. He saw cages near the back wall, 5 of them. Small shadows moved inside, huddled close together. He searched desperately for Emily's face, but couldn't tell one figure from another. His chest clenched. He forced himself to breathe. Panic could wait. He turned the camera off and slipped it back into his waterproof pouch, securing the data drive around his neck. That USB would be the key, proof of everything. Lightning flashed again, and for a moment Jack saw his reflection in a puddle. Rain, dirt, exhaustion, determination. He wasn't the soldier he used to be, but he still knew how to finish what he started. Thunder rolled. Travis barked another command, motioning for the men to move the crates inside. 2 of them laughed, shoving each other as they worked. The sound made Jack's teeth clench. These weren't ghosts in the night. They were men who had chosen evil. He felt the familiar weight of his pistol at his side. He turned to Lila. "Stay here with Rex," he whispered. "If anything happens, he'll protect you." The girl's eyes widened. "What about you?" Jack gave a thin smile. "I'm just going to take a closer look." He slipped away, merging with the storm. Crouching low, Jack moved along the ridge, every sense on edge. He approached from the eastern flank, where the forest grew denser. Mud sucked at his boots as he slid down behind a fallen tree, now only 50 yards from the cave entrance. The smell of smoke and diesel filled the air. He could see Travis arguing with the tall mercenary, their voices rising above the storm. Jack used the noise to mask his movements. Inside the cave, he glimpsed one of the children, a small figure clutching a stuffed bear. His chest twisted. It wasn't Emily, but it didn't matter. Every child here deserved to see daylight again. He raised his small camera one last time and zoomed in, capturing clear footage of faces, weapons, the license plate of the truck. Then, as he turned to retreat, Rex gave a low, urgent growl from the ridge. Jack froze. The dog had caught something. Scent, movement, maybe Emily. He glanced up toward Rex, who stood trembling, nostrils flaring toward the wind. Jack followed the direction of Rex's stare. There, a faint sound. A child's sob, muffled by stone. It came from a small side tunnel near the back of the cave, half hidden by crates. Emily. He knew it instantly. His hand tightened around his pistol. His fear was gone, replaced by focus so sharp it hurt. The rain pounded harder, lightning flashed, and Jack Turner, father, soldier, hunter, became nothing but purpose. He whispered under his breath, "Hold on, sweetheart. I'm coming for you." The rain had not stopped. It fell heavier now, a curtain of silver that blurred shapes and softened the edges of the forest. Jack crouched behind a moss-covered boulder, eyes locked on the cave below. Inside, the flickering firelight revealed the silhouettes of guards still moving in and out, unaware of the storm closing around them. His shoulder throbbed from hours of tension, but adrenaline dulled the pain. He turned slightly toward Lila and Rex, both waiting beside him. "It's time," he whispered. His voice was low, measured, the voice of a man who had planned too many missions like this. Jack reached into his pack and pulled out 3 small metallic objects wrapped in black tape. Homemade charges built from old flash powder and blasting caps salvaged from logging gear he'd found near an abandoned site. He worked carefully, fingers steady despite the cold. Rex watched intently, tail still, as if understanding every move. The dog's fur was matted with mud, his golden eyes gleaming in the faint light. "Take this," Jack said, handing Lila a small flashlight. "If something happens to me, follow Rex. He'll get you out." Lila swallowed hard, clutching the light like it was the last warm thing left in the world. Her lips trembled. "Will you come back?" Jack forced a smile. "That's the plan." He set off down the slope, crouched low, his boots sinking into the wet earth. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Every movement was calculated. The weight shift, the pause between raindrops. Jack circled wide toward the southern ridge, where the terrain dropped sharply into a ravine. That was his stage. He planted the first charge under a cluster of rocks, then the second near a fallen pine trunk. The final one he buried just beneath the soil where the sound would carry best through the valley. The timer blinked red. 5 minutes. From his position, Jack could see the guards clustered near the main entrance. One of them, the young man in the hoodie, leaned against a post, clearly bored. Another, older and heavier, was talking to Travis, who paced with his usual cigarette dangling from his lips. The mercenary's patience seemed thin. He jabbed a finger toward the forest, shouting something Jack couldn't hear. Maybe he'd sensed movement earlier. Maybe he simply didn't trust the night. Jack took one last look toward the ridge where Lila and Rex waited. He pressed the detonator button. A second later, the southern forest exploded with light and sound. The ground shook. Birds burst from the trees in a flurry of wings. A deep echo rolled through the valley, followed by the frantic shouts of men. Travis barked orders, waving his gun. 3 of the guards ran toward the sound, rifles raised. Another jumped into the truck, engine roaring to life. Only 2 remained near the cave. That was all Jack needed. He sprinted down the slope, hugging the shadows, rain pelting his back. Rex appeared from the brush moments later, silent as a phantom, moving beside him. They reached the cave's edge just as thunder cracked overhead, masking the sound of Jack's boots. He slipped inside, the stench of smoke and damp stone filling his lungs. The children were huddled together in the far corner, wide-eyed and shaking. Lila ran to them first, whispering quickly, "It's okay. He's here to help." Jack moved swiftly, cutting ropes with his combat knife. His fingers bled from the rough hemp, But he didn't stop. "Stay quiet," he murmured. "Follow Rex when I say so." Then he saw her, Emily. She sat apart from the others, clutching a worn, stuffed bear against her chest. Her blonde hair was tangled, her cheeks streaked with tears and dirt. When her eyes met his, disbelief flashed first, then relief so powerful it broke something inside him. "Daddy?" she whispered. Jack's throat closed. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "I'm here, baby. We're going home." But the moment didn't last. A shadow fell across the entrance. A guard had returned, drawn by instinct or bad luck. His flashlight swept across the walls and landed on Jack. "Hey!" he shouted, raising his gun. The shot came fast, too fast. Pain ripped through Jack's shoulder, hot and searing. He stumbled, grabbing the wound. Rex lunged with a snarl that filled the cave, tackling the gunman before the second shot fired. The struggle was brutal, short. The man's scream was lost under the echo of thunder. Jack knew they had seconds. Blood soaked through his sleeve, his vision blurred. He pulled the USB from his neck chain and tied it around Rex's collar, his voice rough. "Listen, boy. You need to take them to town. Find the sheriff. You know the way." Rex growled, shaking his head as if refusing to understand. "Go," Jack hissed. "Emily needs you safe." Emily clung to Rex, tears mixing with rain as she whispered, "Please, Daddy, come too." Jack cupped her face, forcing a steady tone. "I'll be right behind you, sweetheart, I promise." He motioned toward Lila. "Take them. Follow the creek north. It'll lead you out." Rex hesitated one last second, then barked sharply, a sound that cut through the storm like a vow. He turned, herding the children into a line, guiding them through the narrow tunnel that led to the forest. Emily looked back once, her small hand lifted toward her father. Jack raised his good arm in return, forcing a smile despite the blood running down his side. As they disappeared into the rain, Jack turned toward the cave mouth where new voices shouted in alarm. He grabbed the fallen guard's rifle, chambered around, and took cover behind a crate. The storm raged, thunder rolling like war drums. The soldier in him came alive again, one last mission, one final stand. The forest was still drenched in darkness when Rex led the line of children through the trees. The rain had slowed to a mist, soft and cold, coating the world in silver. The German shepherd moved with calculated precision, sniffing the air for danger, every muscle tuned for survival. His fur, dark with mud and water, clung tightly to his body. Yet his eyes, sharp amber like burning coals, remained unwavering. Behind him, Emily stumbled over roots, clutching her stuffed bear in one hand, the other gripping Lila's sleeve. Lila, though exhausted and shivering, kept whispering, "Just a little further, Em. We're going to be safe soon." Her voice trembled, but her will didn't break. Rex paused near a stream swollen by the storm. The current was fierce, carrying branches and debris. The children hesitated, eyes wide with fear. Lila bit her lip, looking at the dog as if he could give orders in words. Rex turned, glanced at the group, then plunged into the water. The current nearly pulled him under, but his powerful legs kicked hard, muscles straining. When he reached the far side, he barked twice, a sharp, commanding sound. One by one, the children followed, using the fallen branches as grips. Lila went last, guiding Emily and the smallest boy, who was barely 5. The boy, thin and pale, had been silent the whole journey. His name, Lila had learned, was Owen. His eyes were a deep green, wide and haunted. He had seen too much. When they reached the other side, the forest opened slightly, revealing the faint glow of headlights in the distance. Lila recognized the old dirt road that led to Silver Creek, the road to safety. But before they could move forward, a shout echoed behind them. Flashlights flickered between the trees. Travis's men had realized their mistake. The forest erupted with noise. Crashing footsteps, angry voices, the metallic clatter of guns being readied. Rex barked once and took position in front of the children, teeth bared, a low growl rumbling from his chest. Lila's heart pounded as she pushed the children forward. "Go!" she hissed. "Run to the road! Go!" They stumbled through the mud, branches whipping their faces, until the faint outline of a small wooden building emerged through the mist. The local ranger station. Deputy Michael Harris was inside, finishing the last page of his midnight report, when he heard the barking. He was 38, lean, with tired eyes that carried the weight of too many night shifts. His short brown hair was streaked with gray at the sides, and a long scar ran along his jaw, a reminder of an old line-of-duty accident. He was known in town as calm, dependable, the kind of officer who still believed that doing the right thing mattered. When he stepped outside, coffee cup in hand, and saw a pack of soaked children running toward him, led by a mud-covered German shepherd, he froze. "My God," he whispered, dropping the cup. "What the—" Emily was the first to reach him, gasping, "Please, help! Daddy's still out there!" Harris knelt, his training kicking in. "Easy now, you're safe. Who's your dad?" "Jack Turner," Lila cried, clutching the USB that hung from Rex's collar. "He sent this. He said to give it to the police." Harris's eyes sharpened at the name. He knew Jack, vaguely. A quiet man who lived off Route 12, former Navy, the type who kept to himself. Harris grabbed the USB, turned toward his patrol car, and plugged it into the dash laptop. The screen filled with video files, grainy footage of armed men, cages, children. His blood ran cold. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. He radioed in. "This is Deputy Harris, badge 1724. I have multiple kidnapped minors recovered. Coordinates incoming. We need backup and medical at Silver Creek now. Possible armed suspects in the northern forest. Repeat, armed suspects." Within minutes, the night erupted into motion. Sirens wailed in the distance as additional patrol cars sped through the rain. Rex, exhausted but refusing to rest, limped toward the doorway, collapsing beside Emily. His chest rose and fell heavily, eyes half-lidded but alert. Harris crouched beside him, gently scratching behind his ear. "You did good, boy. Real good." Back in the forest, Jack fought to stay conscious. Blood soaked his sleeve, dripping down into the mud. His breathing was shallow, but his focus remained sharp. Two of Travis's men were already down, their rifles kicked aside. He pressed against a tree, counting the shadows moving through the storm. The thunder had faded, replaced by the whir of rotors in the distance. Helicopter. He smiled weakly. Help was coming. Travis emerged from behind a tree, mud splattered across his face, fury in his eyes. "You think you can ruin my business, old man?" he snarled, raising his weapon. Jack steadied his aim despite the pain. "Not business," he said hoarsely. "Children." Their shots echoed almost at once. Travis fell first, his gun clattering into the mud. Jack sank to his knees, vision blurring as the floodlights from the approaching helicopter swept across the forest. The next thing he heard was a familiar voice, small, trembling. "Daddy?" Emily ran toward him, breaking free from the officers. Rex limped beside her, barking weakly. Jack forced his eyes open as she knelt beside him, her tiny hands pressing against his chest. "I told you I'd be right behind you," he whispered, smiling faintly. Harris's voice shouted orders in the background. Medics swarmed in. Rex lay down beside Jack, resting his head on the man's boot, eyes closing peacefully. The first light of dawn broke through the clouds, touching the treetops in gold. Jack's gaze followed it, his expression calm, fulfilled. He reached a trembling hand to pat Rex's head one last time. "Good boy," he murmured. The world grew quiet except for the distant hum of engines and the soft sound of his daughter's sobs. The sun rose higher over Silver Creek, spilling light over the chaos and the rescue below. And in that fragile dawn, blood, rain, and tears washed into one. The nightmare ended. For Jack, Emily, and Rex, it was the dawn of freedom, of love, and of loyalty that would never die. Sometimes, miracles don't arrive as thunder or lightning. They come quietly, in the shape of a loyal dog, a father's courage, or a child's innocent faith. That night in the Oregon forest, Jack, Emily, and Rex didn't just survive. They reminded us that even in the darkest hours, God never truly leaves us. He sends His light through love, loyalty, and hope. In our everyday lives, we may not face the same battles, but we all have storms to walk through. Fears, losses, pain, and maybe, just maybe, your Rex or your Jack is already beside you. A person, a friend, or even a small act of kindness sent by God to remind you that you're not alone. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs hope tonight. Comment below what this story means to you, or say a prayer for those still fighting their own silent battles. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so we can keep bringing you more stories of faith, love, and second chances. May God bless you and your family. May He give you strength to face your darkest nights and the faith to wait for the dawn.